Bitcoin is experiencing what's known as a short squeeze, which is a hard and fast move to the upside, and it's catching the market off guard. We are now trading within the high time frame range that I've been tracking since the end of March as we started Q2, and today we're seeing momentum build in a big way. Meanwhile, gold just tagged $3,500 and whispers are starting to swirl about crypto finally decoupling from the traditional markets. Is it happening? And more importantly, what does it mean next? In this video, I'm breaking down the key levels I'm watching that could dictate the next major move for Bitcoin and the entire crypto market. Please be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our daily updates. My name is Paul, this is DataDash, and you need to grab yourself a cup of coffee because we're breaking it all down right now. If you're finding value in these videos and you want to take your trading and investing to the next level, I want to personally invite you to check out my private Discord community. This is where I post all of my market updates, trade setups, and in-depth analysis from short-term scalps to big picture macro outlooks across both crypto and stocks. And whether you're day trading or positioning for a longer term position, I share the exact levels, charts, and thought process behind every move I'm watching. In fact, just last Friday before the weekend rally, I highlighted the potential for the short squeeze we're seeing play out right now, and that type of real-time insight is what you'll get access to every single day inside the group. You'll also get access to my full trading academy where I break down all the tools, indicators, and strategies I personally use to maintain an edge in this market. It's structured, actionable, and constantly evolving with the market. But beyond the content, this is a tight-knit community of like-minded investors and traders, people who are actively working together to read these markets, build confidence, and grow their edge. Plus, you'll have direct access to me where you can ask questions, share ideas, and get feedback on your setups. If that sounds like something you're looking for, click the link down in the description below, become a member, and get full access today. All right, Bitcoin is trading well within the high time frame range that I've been discussing as we've entered into Q2 here. Just kind of dating back a little bit a few weeks ago when we dropped down into the $74,000 range. Once again, we did what we see time and time again, right? Where we saw a nice little rally here we had a CME futures gap that was filled down in this region. We had about 2 weeks of upside where many probably entered this position thinking that the bottom was in and we'd see some more continued growth, only to come down just a few weeks later and effectively stop out anybody that had gotten into those positions. Pair that with the tariff fears, right? So these were extreme fears. I like to say like the news comes in when they get to the extreme levels is when the most opportunity is going to arise, right? Obviously, we had to be able to adapt to the price action as it was unfolding and look for some key regions. And as you all may know, $80,000 Bitcoin has basically been my line in the sand for the last few weeks as we've been looking for that strength and that support to come in. And we did dip obviously below it for these few days here, but effectively all we did was come down, and a technical term for this is known as a swing failure pattern, which is a SFP, which essentially is where a sweep of the lows, you can call it a liquidity grab, what have you. But we see this time and time again on just about every time frame. And one of the best versions of this exact move, where I always like to say you'll sweep the low and go, essentially, because you'll come down, take out the low. Obviously, like I said, fears are at highs. Everyone's either selling out. I say everyone, but I mean a good bunch, right? So obviously not every single person probably is out here panic selling at every dump. But there's a good bit. And we came down to these regions. We had very fearful news. I'm sure people are opening shorts down here, if not around these regions, right? And what we tend to see when we see these moves is a move back to the upside. And I've highlighted the reasons why I was pretty bullish from this case, especially when we did reclaim $80,000 and why I was looking for at least the $89,000 level and why that was so key for any more upside, right? And that sweep of the low, once again, is something we see. We saw it right up here at the high as well. This is the $110,000 all-time high at the moment. This was our previous high just before that. We came up, took the high, and then we just kind of ran the range at that time. So very technical stuff. Honestly, no news needed. And I really I prefer to showcase days like today where we have almost no news at the moment that's really signaling or giving a big reasoning behind this, at least not in my opinion, aside from this just being a pretty technical move that, once again, a short squeeze, if you will. And all that is that the majority of retail investors were coming into these areas after this move here and after we got this move down, and they were actually putting in short positions And generally what happens is, just like I said, we get a squeeze to the upside, which basically ends up closing out everybody's positions. They end up having to purchase long positions, and that does in turn push the price up. And all in all, we've done is just come up to a high time frame average, pushed into said range we've been looking at, and now we're at that $93,000 key level that I've been pointing out as well. So what is next here for Bitcoin, right? So honestly, we're not necessarily out of the woods. This could very well be just that, a little bit of a rally up into these regions. And this is that area between that 93K and 96 to 90, I even venture to say 98. But the areas that we're pushing into right now are very crucial for the Bitcoin price action for the following months, because if we get a rejection around this region, that will effectively put us with a potential lower high, which in turn is pretty bearish, and that could lead to a sizable rejection. And if we do see that, then I would imagine we actually come back down, we break 80,000, and we see a sizable drop to the downside. Now, the thing I'm looking for here, and mind you, we've seen a really nice move into this region, and we have the highest volume level, which is the likely region once we re-enter a range to come into, right? This is our natural target when looking at a range data based on volume. This is the point of control. This is where the highest amount of transactions have taken place, and the price action will seek out that level once re-entered a range. And that could be either from the upside, or in this case, from the low side. I've pointed out this untapped quarterly level. This 93K is a pretty high region to be aware of as well, just because in theory, this level right here, this point of control, is also perfectly sitting right at the gold pocket, right? So if I'm going to take a Fibonacci retracement from the high at $110,000 and I drag it to the low, we can see that the gold pocket, the Fibonacci retracement area, which is a very likely area to see the price revisit, which is also now stacked right at the point of control here from that last quarterly range, does sit about that $96,000 to $97,500 area. So I imagine that many are targeting this, right? So even for myself, realistically, I'm looking at this as a potential for that lower high. I know if anyone's looking into a Elliott wave type of count, where this potentially is the fifth wave up here, and you're seeing a potential A, B, C correction, right? That's something that is lining up in this region as well. Also, for anyone looking at something like Wyckoff distribution, same thing. If we come up here and we experience a lower high reaction and we get a rejection and we see that drop, all those really align with this region, on top of it being the gold pocket, on top of it being this, just for me, it's just a short-term at least target that from the lows here, if anything, offering us just this bounce that's potentially 30%. So it's a really big area that I'd like to see cleared through, right? So for the short term right now, all things good. We're in the range. I imagine we'll see something along the lines now of at least coming back and back testing the low, okay? Because we basically just piled right through here. This is the daily time frame, but even if you go to the 4 hour, you can see that we've just plowed right into this region. We've not necessarily come back and back tested that the low yet. So I imagine that tomorrow, especially after a day that we've had such a move like this, or later today, even on Wednesday, that we'll see a move maybe back down to this region here, potentially a little wick, but we want to see that hold as support, and then look to that move up towards that point of control, that gold pocket area. And the sign of strength that I'm looking to see really starts with this 93K, right? So I'd love to see a daily close above this region for one. But this other is just a daily close right above this gold pocket. If you clear $98,000 and start closing dailies, for me, I'm looking for a rotation of the range. So very similar to what we did up at the previous range here, where we took the high. Once again, I'll remind you of what that range looked like here as we were trading it last quarter. This is what it looked like here. We did a very similar thing. We started off in the middle in this case. We came up, we took that high. We had a bearish reversal pattern known as the bearish harmonic shark, which had targets of $86,000. We came down to those key level target areas as well. And then we effectively just rotated the range, meaning we ran it from high down to low. All right. And then we, of course, started putting in this other structure here where we came down, we had a new quarter, so on and so forth. And now we're back pretty much in the middle of this region. The market is a huge game of ebbs and flows. It does tend to range more than anything, especially Bitcoin. Bitcoin ranges some odd 80% of the time, right? We get these breaks to the upside and, of course, these huge drawdowns. But for the most part, you'll look and at months on end, we'll see more than anything, we get ranging activity. So By and large, we're still pretty much range bound, but we're getting a break from that little local area. We've been trading around that 80K, and now we're pushing up into this region here. And once again, without any news even being looked at, considered, this is a very, very, very technical setup that I hope you all have noticed that I've been bringing to your attention for the last few weeks here, pairing it with the news at times because the timing of FOMC meetings or CPI day or things like that will align well with a nice pop. But at the end of the day, this was a pretty technical setup, in my opinion. And now we are at a point where we need to be paying attention to how we're going to react in this region, because this is very important to see. I bring up the one example, which there's many, obviously, but the overall idea here is that if this is the high, we just came down for that low. And then once again, anyone looking for that ABC styled correction, which you should be, even myself, I'm inclined to be aware of that at this point. The only thing for me is that I just feel that it may be the crowded play, right? So, and what I mean by that is we're walking into May, where many investors at times will go by the saying that sell in May and walk away. And of course, we're coming up to some pretty high levels here. One thing to note is we have the Bitcoin conference in May as well, which is almost a little laughable thing that in the past, several times, not always, but several times we've seen that Bitcoin conference actually mark the high. Locally, at least. So there's things in the charts and around us that I do feel warrant a bit of caution here. Definitely not an area to be just jumping in with long positions or getting into fresh investments unless you truly have a strategy wrapped around it. There are a few altcoins that are still at some pretty downright discount areas here, and if we did see that break above that 98K for Bitcoin, I do imagine that the altcoins are going to run. So personally, just to make it very clear, somebody had mentioned in the last video, I seemed very vague. Hope that I was holding a more bullish bias there, right? At the end of the day, I am analyzing data. I'm not trying to come across a certain way, because by the time I even post this video, we could have new data that has arrived, and that bias can shift. But overall, been very bullish as long as we've been holding above $80,000 Bitcoin. That still remains. Target areas are being met right this moment. Personally, I'm actually more bullish here than bearish, but I would warrant caution into this $93,000 to $98,000 region. And if we can claim that area, I'm looking for a range rotation, meaning that push up to $106,000 next. And at that point, I would imagine that the new all-time high would be coming in, and that this area would break to the upside. So just stair-stepping it in this area as we are here. We could very well spend a few weeks in this region as well. So it's something to be aware of, right? It's not pointing out that this is just going to run straight up from here. Even if we do see that push through, we may spend about a week or two at this that gold pocket area, that 96K, maybe even where we are now, this 93. That would allow for the altcoins to potentially see a little bit of a breather, right? When Bitcoin pushes up like this and potentially stalls out for a few days to a few weeks, we see the rest of the market catch a bid, so to speak. And so yeah, so overall, nothing's really changed quite yet. Looking for a little sign of weakness potentially, but overall, I'm still pretty bullish here. I'm not going to lie, and looking to see at the moment, while we're in the range now. For me, 90K is kind of moving the line up a little bit in the sand for getting for being any kind of overly cautious or anything that's going to cause any worry at this point. Is that as long as now we're above 90K, that's kind of our new little buffer, and we'll look to see what unfolds here in the coming days. Okay, gold, been targeting 3,661 ever since we pushed through that recent trend-based gold pocket here. Today we pushed up right to a high of $3,500, depending on which exchange you're looking at. 35.05 and some change, and getting a little bit of a pullback, little breather at the moment. So I'm going to be monitoring this here in the coming days. We've got potential, let's just see, for a little local pullback, right? So on a strong move like this, the 0.382 is an area that you want to be aware of, because we can see a little bit more of a shallower pullback and then continuation. That area does sit at 3,291. And then the overall gold pocket of the current impulse move up, as far as if we were to see a little bit more of a drawdown here, is back at 3,147. So wouldn't be uncommon to see those two levels met. The 3,147 is also basically the previous little high right here. So it would be pretty common to come down, back test some previous resistance, turn it to support, and get that move up as well, right? So paying attention here for gold, but otherwise only $166 off of the next major target there. So pretty good looking here for gold. All right, folks, Ethereum is one I've been joking about for the last few weeks here that potentially has been taking the stairs down and has a setup to potentially see an elevator up, right? I bring that up more so in just what I've seen in the past on moves when I see like this. I've referred to this setup specifically as almost what we saw with Bitcoin back in 2022 at the FTX collapse. We had pretty much just pretty straight down. Obviously, that was a bear market environment at that time. And so far, we've seen ETH come right down, sweep these Q3 lows from 2023. And the key level that I'd like to have seen reclaimed for any more confirmation of continued upside since we made this low. And you can see here, it's actually right there. It's marked pretty clear. 1670 has been that level. And we had not come up. I'll zoom in on this. You can see here that we've just banged our head on this region for the last few weeks here until today. So we've got a nice green candle pushing through, looking to start seeing some daily closures around above that region here. Similar to Bitcoin, right? We could very well see something along these lines where we're pushing about $1,800 right now. Maybe we push back down and back test that 1670, back test all this previous resistance into support before continuing up on a small cool down. But overall, this is the level I wanted to see reclaimed, and then targeting at least back up to this $2,000 region, which is the monthly pivot. So untapped average of price from last month, likely to be met this month. It's also our 2024 low. So as far as any more continued upside from here, that's the next level we want to see claimed. And we just take it level by level here, folks. Get above 2,044, closing above that, and I'll continue it up. And then as we zoom out, right, we can see that we've got some pretty sizable targets coming in here. The 0.382 is a big one in my opinion. It's also our high time frame average for last quarter, likely we met this quarter. So got some more time in that. Obviously, not a guarantee by any means. It's just a likely hit rate here that we'd see this in Q2. We've got a little volume target in between the 382 and the gold pocket. But if we were to get above this region, I imagine that we see that gold pocket area, which is back at $3,100. Again, taking it level by level, right? We need to hold above 1670. Then we're looking back up to 2000. We've got a $2,400 area here and then up to 3,100. Not that it's going to happen by any means, but if we did see a pretty quick move, and I call it the stairs down and elevator up, I don't be surprised, right? Because we do see moves like this time and time again, especially when you get down into the pits of this region here, and you have the sentiment just completely in the gutter. And once again, the fears are at all-time highs with those tariffs. I actually saw, at least in the social media world of it, right? Like I saw many people, whether they were joking or not, they were talking about dumping their ETH and all these things. And obviously that maybe was the play a few months ago, but coming after a 50-60% drawdown, usually that doesn't end well for most people that unload at a low. And we'll finish off with the SPY here. So this is the ETF that measures against the S&P 500. And once again, a few weeks ago when we came down with pretty much the tariff woes, I suppose, we came right into that gold pocket retracement area. We got a bounce right off the high side of this. And so far has really been holding at the moment. So to me, this is still not that bad of a setup here as far, and when I say setup, it's just not a bad look here. We've come down, we've made a pretty decent low. We've taken out some of these lows here. Could we come back and actually effectively take this low and fully meet the gold pocket? Always a chance, right? But for me, looking at the way Bitcoin is holding at the moment, at least, I would imagine that the SPY probably does kind of turn this around and push back up into this region over next coming days and weeks here, right? That's going to do it for today's breakdown. If you found this helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss one of our daily uploads here at DataDash. And if you want even more real-time updates, trade setups, and access to everything I'm watching across crypto and stocks, be sure to check out the private Discord. The link is down in the description below. I'll see you all in the next video. And until then, everybody, cheers.